Hello and welcome to Perspectives, where we'll take a deep dive into the issues of the day and where we'll take a look at people's opinion on such issues. I am Ruth Osime. Welcome back to Perspectives here on Arise News. The issue of today is about drug addiction. The burden of drug abuse is becoming a public health concern in Nigeria. The uncontrolled consumption of these unconventional drugs has thrown many of our youths to the state of insanity and sent many vibrant and promising youths to their early graves. Drug abuse has been a cause of many debilitating conditions such as schizophrenia, psychosis, leading to psychiatric admissions. It can also have other severe health consequences, both physical and mental, especially when it begins at a very young age. Physical and sexual abuse, early exposure to drugs, stress, and lack of parental guardians can also greatly affect a person's likelihood of drug use and addiction. Parents must therefore educate their children about the negative consequences of drug use in order to diffuse the mystic and their children's curiosity. The effects of drug abuse has torn families apart because a person who struggles with addiction usually pushes their family members to their limits. This has led to severe ties and broken families, as some people can only take so much before they decide to cut their loved one from their life, as long as they're still in active addiction. It would be a great disservice for us as a nation to leave this important population demography to their fate to die aimlessly and shamelessly without fulfilling their dreams and aspirations as a result of drug addictions, which in recent times have taken over our communities, towns, and the nation as a whole. We will take a bit of time here to have a look at a report on drug addiction. We'll be right back.
Clinically known as substance use disorder, drug abuse or addiction is caused by habitual taking of addictive substances. Drugs include alcohol, marijuana, opioids, amongst other substances. Substance abuse disorder is a disease causing people to compulsively use drugs despite consequences. Addiction is a disease that affects your brain and behavior. When you're addicted to drugs, you can't resist the urge to use them, no matter how much harm the drugs may cause. The earlier you get treatment for drug addiction, the more likely you are to avoid some of the more dire consequences of the disease. Drug addiction isn't about just heroin, cocaine, or other illegal drugs. You can get addicted to alcohol, nicotine, sleep, and anti-anxiety medications and other legal substances. People from all walks of life can experience problems with their drug use, regardless of age, race, background, or the reason they started using drugs in the first place. Some people experiment with recreational drugs out of curiosity, to have a good time because friends are doing it, or to ease problems such as stress, anxiety, or depression. Side effects of drug addiction may include a weakened immune system, increasing the risk of illness and infection. Heart conditions ranging from abnormal heart rates to heart attacks and collapsed veins and blood vessels infections from injected drugs. Also, nausea and abdominal pain, which can lead to changes in appetite and weight loss. Increased fever on the liver, which puts the person at risk of significant liver damage or liver failure. Another side effects include seizures, stroke, mental confusion and brain damage, lung disease, problems with memory, attention and decision making, which make daily living more difficult. Today on Perspectives, we will be discussing the psychological, emotional and physical effect, how it affects families of the abusers, the poor standards of available treatment centers.
This is really sad to watch. Anyway, we're heading for a short break, but stay with us because when we return, it will be an opportunity to meet the two great individuals we have as guests on the program, Dr. Maymunah Yusuf Kadiri and Ugo Chijiutomi. Perspectives will return in just a moment. Welcome back to Perspectives here on Arise News. It's now time for our distinguished guests, and we are starting with Ugo Chijiutomi, who is known as the Eagle and the Chief Encouraging Officer. She's a certified integrative life coach, a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner, an emotional freedom technique practitioner, and a clinical psychodynamic psychotherapist in training. Before transiting as a life coach and therapist, Ugo Chijiutomi earned a Bachelor of Arts in Business Management and MSc in International Business Economics in the University of Westminster. Ugo is very passionate about transforming the lives of her clients as she transforms their minds so they can fly like eagles, as she believes that's what we're all made to do. Ugo helps her clients build the right confidence to conquer the world, eliminate fear and other limiting beliefs, and develop a sense of worthiness that becomes unique with everyone she works with. She's joining us from Arise News Studios in London today. Welcome, Ugo. Good to see you. How are you?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I'm very well. Good to see you too.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you. Also joining us for this most important discussion is Dr. Maymunah Yusuf Kadiri, who is popularly known as the celebrity shrink. Dr. Kadiri is a multiple award-winning mental health physician, advocate, and coach. She's a medical director and psychiatrist-in-chief at Pinnacle Medical Services, Nigeria's leading and foremost psychology and mental health clinic. Dr. Kadiri is a dynamic consultant, neuropsychiatrist, and a fellow of the National Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria with almost 20 years' experience as a practicing physician. She's a trained and certified rational, emotive, and cognitive behavioral therapist from Albert Hill's Institute, New York, United States, as well as a certified trauma counselor and neurofeedback practitioner. As a forerunner in the practice of mental health and other novel therapy techniques in Nigeria, Dr. Yusuf Kadiri continues to be the most sought-after psychiatrist and psychotherapist in Nigeria and beyond. Her knowledge in the field of psychiatry and psychology also provides her with a sound foundation for her teaching practice. Her driving force is to live, to learn, and to impact generations positively. Wow, talk about being on top of your game. Hey, all this cycle, whatever cycle, this cycle, that even myself go, my brain was almost
becoming psychoanalyzed.
This medical lingua franca. Anyway, bottom line, they help solve head problems.
Exactly.
That's the general gist.
Body, mind, and soul, there must be a synchrony.
Exactly. As we saw with our VT, I mean, it's harrowing.
Yeah.
When you look at what drugs has done or is doing to our society as a whole. And it's really scary because you were saying, about the means in which some of these drugs are being distributed. So let's even talk about that. How bad is drug addiction in society today? And what are the popular drugs of today's times?
How bad? Mm-hmm. It's bad. It's not for us to put it on a scale of 1 to 10.
Wow.
If what would be that number is obviously above 5. We're talking about 7, 8. If you follow the NDLEA platform, whether you are there physically or follow them on social media, you will see a lot of work and investment that has gone into how to detect, drugs, people that are manufacturing, people that are living large, billionaires that are manufacturing and distributing all these drugs in different parts of the country. So it is bad. It is bad because the major users are our youths, and our youths make up 70% of our population, and our youths are the future leaders. And when you look at the statistics of mental health, they are telling us that half of all mental illnesses start before the age of 14.
Wow.
And to talk before the age of 25. So we must be able to deal with our Gen Zs, our Alpha generation group, because these are the youth we are talking about. So it is really bad. And there are many different types of, this type of drugs. The opioids are there. The opioids are the ones we talk about, the prescription drugs and all that. And of course, we have
the white collar drugs.
Exactly. So, and the thing is that because opioids are prescription, sometimes it may not be the fault of somebody who eventually gets into addiction. So I always tell people that addiction is a process, it's never an event.
Yeah, but before you can buy these tablets on the counter, shouldn't there be a prescription from a doctor? I mean, I know it doesn't really apply. But shouldn't that be the case?
There should be, but oftentimes you find out that some people will manufacture one and then they are not going to real pharmacies.
But even the pharmacy has strict that they want to sell now.
Some of them want to sell. Like you can't go and buy diazepam just like that. The pharmacy will tell you to write your name and sign. But it's not all of them that have that, write your name and sign. Some people just want to make money, like chemists. So the pharmacists are there. Some of them are doing a very fantastic job. I must give it to them. But some other group of people that are just selling in corners and corridors. So implementation, evaluation, and even checking up on them, that is a problem. So apart from opioids, we have, of course, stimulants. There is the cocaine. We have depressant, like the alcohol. We have cannabis, of course. This is a very common one.
No, the one I want to ask you about is the one you told me, the pepper soup story. Please share that with the audience.
So the truth is that that's why I tell people, sometimes you may just be on your own and a stray bullet will come and meet you where you are.
So when you say stray bullet, what does that
meaning
mean?
that you may not set out to get into drug dependency or tolerance or what we call addiction at the end of the day. Sometimes it does be what you eat or what you drink. And before you know what is happening, there's a problem.
So
the case of pepper soup now is about this young man who works in a very good, though highly stressful environment, and then he normally goes to buy pepper soup from a particular joint. And he never knew there was a problem with that pepper soup until he broke down. And when he came into the hospital, just by accidental finding, screening and doing what we call urine toxicology, we found marijuana in his system. And the active substance ingredient for marijuana is 9-tetrahydrocannabinol. And this boy was brought in by his church pastor. So they said it's not possible. He's the head of the choir. He's about to get married soon. So this boy, we know him. And so at the end of the day, how did you not find out? When he was admitted, he woke up and started shouting pepper soup. And we're wondering, why is this boy shouting pepper soup? And then in the process of assessment and evaluation, we found out that it was where he was buying his pepper soup. The person who makes the pepper soup, instead of adding scent leaf, we add marijuana leaf. And that led us to making a short movie, Pepper Soup, in 2016, 2017. It was led by Derrile Edun. Fantastic. He did a very fantastic job because he was able to deplete that role. So you may be what you are eating.
But I got to ask, but is this a common occurrence?
It's not. It's not. The thing
For
is
them
that
to put this thing in
it's
their
not.
food
It's not
to attract
supposed to.
customers.
It's not. That is the bad part of it. Some people may just go and just take. So once you are eating something from somewhere and you find yourself going back, it's a problem.
Okay.
Another one is people taking drinks. So you go for party like this rape drug. So people grind it. And use there's a very tiny needle syringe that they can use, to inject it into the drink without opening it. And so you may come for the party, of course they open it in front of you, you will never suspect anything. Before you know what is happening, you feel drowsy, you may be knocked off. And sometimes you may wake up, something has happened to your body, but you can't really remember what it is.
Okay.
Also like the story of the young boy I told you about. Just 14 years old. Where did he get his marijuana? From Malams. So sometimes these people...
said so, that the Malams outside also sell it.
They are selling sweet chewing gum behind the scenes. Some of them are selling other things. So you have to be very careful. So parents out there, especially now that it's long holiday, summer holiday, you have to watch out. Where's your child going to? All this sleepover, whatever I want to belong. Stop that rubbish.
Okay.
Let people stay in their houses. You have to even evaluate who comes into your home.
That's good. Don't go anywhere, yes. We're here for a long haul. Let's go to Ugo. Ugo, are you there? Hello, Ugo.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
It's as if you and Maymunah shared the memory. You're both in pink.
It's the Barbie moment.
Okay, that's true. That's true. I missed the memo. Anyway, let me ask you, Ugo, because when I spoke to you, I said to you that I wanted you to talk from first-hand experience of dealing with drug addiction. So you are playing the role of a drug addict with the questions I'm going to ask you because of the first-hand experiences you've had with them. So as a loved one of a drug addict, for instance, what are the common components and psychological signs of drug addiction? What are the signals that parents or loved ones of drug addicts should look out for to know that their loved one is addicted?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. And thank you to the lovely doctor. I mean, that is such an insight into what's going on at the moment and how our young people are being targeted. You've asked about how we can look out for signs. And what's interesting is we're constantly looking out for signs. I mean, like I work with clients who parents are reaching out and saying, there is something wrong with my young child. This young man or this young woman used to be so vibrant, and suddenly they've decided to shrink back. They're no longer going out with their friends. They're no longer wanting to interact. There is isolation going on. And so those are key signs that we as parents or caregivers or even adults and families starts to look out for. I love the fact that the doctor talked about educating and looking out even in this current situation of summer holidays. But what we then have to do is, what environment do our young people find themselves in? So the key signs are, where are the kids going to? Where are the young people going to? Those are the key questions that we need to start asking. So we are looking out for signs of the usual behavior that maybe our kids or our young people would normally have, and suddenly they start to change. Another thing is, you start finding that they're beginning to steal more from you, or they're manipulating the way they want to get money from you so that they can feed this addiction. Remember, addiction is also a neurological dysfunction. The neurological transmitters in the brain is dysfunctional. So for them at that moment, they're only thinking about, how do I get out of this pain I'm feeling? So they're thinking about, I've got to solve this initial problem. So they'll do anything like steal from you, they would lie to you, they will manipulate you just because they're trying to solve their immediate pain. So look out for signs. If you're finding that, your young person has come up with stories and sub-stories of, I need to pay for something urgently, ask more questions. What are they paying for? Some of them will come to you and say, I don't feel well, I need more money to buy drugs, I'm not feeling well. Be more inquisitive. We need to be more curious at this time. Okay. Those are the key things that we need to look out for.
Speaking of which, you also have situations where parents have been pushed to the limits, where they get extremely emotional and where they don't even know how to draw a line. So at what point do you think that parents, especially mothers, after he has stolen so many times, or they've stolen so many times, you've saved them from very severely bad situations, but yet again this child comes and promises that they will change, promises that they will go through recovery process. At what point must a parent connect but disconnect? In other words, what's that word? Tough love. At what point must the parent say, okay, you know what? I don't want to see you, you cannot have this, you cannot have that. Just totally cut themselves from this child, but at the same time still stay connected one way or the other. Where do they draw the line?
Yeah, thank you so much, Ruth. That's very important. I always say that as much as we're a parent, we also have to be very careful and know how to apply the right rule when it's time to call a spade and say, okay, we can no longer treat you at this level, we've got to go to the next level. Then you imply that. So the time that a parent gets to that level of cutting off, I would say, is when the person is a harm to them or a harm to themselves. At that point, you've got to take more drastic measures. Not cut off in the instance of abandoning, but drastic measures of protecting yourself. So informing the rightful people around you. You can contact local authorities in any way just to make sure that you're protected. So those are the points when families or parents imply the tough love of cutoff. When you feel that the person around you, your family, has become a threat, a danger to you and the family or the people around you. Okay. But before we get there, how do we begin to start dealing with our families who are almost in pain? They're not almost in pain. They're suffering. They're also in pain. Because remember, an addict hasn't decided because they want to self-harm themselves. No one gets into an addiction because, oh, I just love being an addict. No, they found themselves in this predicament. So we've also got to walk ourselves backwards. How do we get forward? Yes.
Okay. Now, Maymunah, I want to ask you something that Ugo just spoke about where the parents draw the line or not draw the line. Do you also think that I was asking you whether, like I was saying, I was telling you about somebody that I knew, and he's been on drugs literally for the past 40 years. Until tomorrow when I see him, his eyes are still glazed, he's still unkempt and whatever. And I was asking you that, is it possible for somebody to be on drugs, no matter how long? Is it possible to be reversed? Because you said some are reversible and some are not reversible. And so why is that the case?
It's good at this point in time for us to also know how, when people take drugs, how it affects the brain. Because it's easy to blame people or label them or make them think as if their issues are not issues. Before now, drug abuse or drug addiction was not we're not seeing it as a medical condition, but now it is known as a complex chronic brain disorder with mental health related issues. So when somebody takes drug, it affects what we call the brain reward center. So reward, as the word is in English, it rewards you. And that reward center, what does it do for us? Motivation, pleasure, reinforcement. So when drug is taken, it tend to release what we call one of the feel-good hormones, neurotransmitter, called dopamine. And that dopamine, when is increased, pleasure, and it reinforces the continuous intake. And so, can people be recover? Can they recover? Can we have reversible? The truth is that recovering or reversibility is a journey.
What's the estimated time of recovery?
Some people can be months, some people can be years.
No, for people who have been on it for decades, I'm saying.
Some people may never recover. So you don't have, it's individualized, it's unique to the person. Two of us sitting down here, our brains are different. The structure, even if you are a twin, your brains are different. Okay, so you cannot really say this person will recover in a month or this person will recover in 2 months.
Yeah, but why is it easier for you to recover faster than for me, for instance?
There are many factors to that. What substance am I taking? How much, what is the severity of this substance in my body? What commitment to recovery or professional help do I have? What accessibility? In Nigeria, we have rehabilitation centers, right? But accessibility and also availability of the resources. Then, of course, most importantly, support system. You can have everything and your support system is not there. You may not recover. We have people that come to the clinic, they take medication, they come regularly for their clinic, but when they go back home, the support system is not there. So, and you find out that they now start having relapses. So in drug addiction, recovery comes with relapses, and people should always see it as not failure, but part of the recovery journey.
Speaking of relapses too, isn't there a way that they can, because when you go back to where you used to hang out, there's temptation.
Those are right? Those are the enablers. But the truth is that, okay, now you have gone for rehabilitation, you are out of the rehabilitation center. We have people that come to our center for rehabilitation. Do we change their environment? Do we change their friends? Do we change, there are so many things that are embedded in that, but what do you train them to do? It's how to say no, it's how to teach them coping skills, how to manage stress, how to manage their emotions, and of course commitment to recovery.
We're going on a break soon. We'll still continue on this topic because it's something that I feel very passionate about. So we'll see you in a couple of minutes. Go grab your cup of tea or coffee and we'll be right back with us on Perspectives. See you soon. Welcome back to Perspectives. Ugo, where are you? Welcome back. I want to ask you, Maymunah was just talking about rehabilitation of drug addicts and what have you. But many rehabilitation centers are very poorly equipped, and some addicts are chained down in the most inhumane conditions. What do you think the government can do in terms of provision for the improvement of mental health for addicts in our society?
Thank you so much. That is such an amazing question, because The first thing is these people are our workforce. So if the government sees our youth as our workforce, these are our future workforce, they would see the need to invest into this. They would see the importance that the mind of our young people are right. They will understand that if we invest now, we are only going to get the benefits in the future. So what are the things that the government can begin to do? They must begin to take this seriously. We can't have a whole generation go down because our leaders are not seeing the importance of putting in so much effort. So we need rehabilitation centers. We need things that work. Like the doctor said, this is now a medical problem. It's not that our young people are finding themselves here because they want to do this. We need to help more. We need to create facilities, therapy centers. Like in the UK, for instance, they've got centers where people can have free access, where you can go and talk to a therapist, a counselor, people who can help you so that you avoid your relapse. We need to start seeing this as an urgent problem. We need to understand that the importance is now. Take this urgently, the more we are actually investing in our future. Our young people are suffering, and we need to be able to take this seriously. Create facilities that our young people can have easy access to.
Okay, another thing I want to ask you, I keep going back to the parents or the loved ones because I think they go through the same torture mentally, spiritually, emotionally as the drug addicts themselves. So as a parent or loved one of an addict, it's almost impossible, like you said earlier on, to literally wash your hands off the addict. But should they themselves seek counseling in how to deal with this problem and how best they can stay connected, like I said, or not, and still not connected? Are there platforms or are there places they themselves can go to understand, to better understand this problem and teach them how best to handle it?
Absolutely. You see, when a family, when a child, for instance, or a young person is going through a problem as this, which is so massive, it's big, it affects everyone around them. Yes, it affects even the parents, the siblings, because it's not just them suffering, the family too is suffering. And in that case, the families also have to look out for themselves. I always advise my clients to seek professional help. As much as your young person is going through addiction, you've also got to deal with the trauma of seeing your young person suffer like this and not able to help them. So you have to also seek professional help. Seek counseling, get talking. I know a lot of our families or our parents will say, oh, I'll go and pray about it. That's good. I love the idea of praying about it, but we've also got to work on it. The Bible says faith without work is dead. So you've got to put your work to action. Go out there, seek counseling, find a way to also resolve this, because the more your young person sees you're leading by example, the more they will follow you. Another thing I would say is education is important. The doctor talked about how this young people trauma starts as early as 14. We've got to catch our young people early. Educate them, get information out there. Let's start letting them know the importance of looking after their mental health, looking out for things around their environment that could put them in this situation and to avoid it. So there is so much that family centers and family units can do in this regards.
Okay. So, and also, if parents who are stuck in this kind of situation, there are various platforms. How can they get into these platforms? Are they on internet? And what platforms do you know of that are quite popular, that off the cuff you can mention one or two for where they can seek solace and seek comfort and guidance in how to handle this?
So information is very key, but the right information is also key. So I would always say to you, look out for people who are professionals. I'm always using the word professionals. So look out for a life coach, for instance. There are so many good coaches out there on the internet. You can find them on social media, but you can also access your local medical doctors. Go into centers and speak to them. Say, okay, I'm looking for somebody who can advise me on how I begin to look after my mental health. You say about online, yeah, we've got the, podcast and informations on AA where you can join, but also communities. Community is very important. So making sure you're in the right community where the right information is being shared is so vital.
Okay. Maymunah, we haven't forgotten you. We'll be back. We'll be right back with you. Let me go back to Maymunah. Ladies in pink.
The Barbie period.
Exactly. But there's something that's also sprung to mind. I mean, I've watched movies where people are recovering drug addicts, and there's this thing they call cold turkey, and it seems so harrowing. So can you please talk us through what this experience is like and what happens to them during this phase?
Cold turkey, it can be very emotionally draining. It can be like life-threatening situation. And that's the reason why I talked about the brain reward center. So when people go cold turkey, it's stopping whatever drug or drugs they are taking abruptly without reducing it. So there's something doctors or healthcare workers always do. When they give you sometimes when they give you medication, especially the ones that you can easily get addicted to, there's what we call we tail it off. So if you are taking one tablet, maybe in the next 5 days, the following 5 days maybe half tablet, and then every other day. So you tail it off so that the rebound effect will not affect.
But what about if it's drugs like cocaine and marijuana?
You should also tail it off. But now the person is taking it and obvious and suddenly stopping. That is cold turkey. Cold turkey is sudden stopping of any substance or substances this person is talking.
So what kind of things do they go through? They hallucinate?
Physical, emotional manifestations, a lot. Some of them will be shivering, increased heart rate. Some may even have seizure, meaning they can convulse. And of course, emotional issues like, anxiety, depression, paranoia. So that's when you start seeing people telling you, look at something here. This thing is looking at me. Are you not seeing this person with 10 heads, hallucinating? And also those psychological and physical manifestations are the things you are going to see. So that is the reason why a lot of people go back. Because the moment they go back and take that substance, all this effect goes away. No, but
if you're going cold turkey and you're put in a particular place that you cannot leave.
So if you are going into a rehabilitation center. In rehabilitation center, you will go through what we call medical detoxification. And some cases, it starts with cold turkey. So the difference between that and you stopping without medical supervision is that this person is going to be monitored. And so we have medications that can help.
How long is this cold turkey period?
It depends on the substance and the severity too. So some people within 10 days, 14 days, they feel better, the effect wears off and all that. But the severity, so the time it takes an individual to seek help also matters in the time for recovery.
Yeah, but one thing I'm also curious about is that if you go to cold turkey means that once you've recovered that phase, you will never feel the urge anymore to want to take drugs?
You will. No.
Oh,
so when you finish the cold turkey, when you go to cold turkey, doesn't mean that craving has stopped. And then you now go into that full rehabilitation where you are now trained, taught coping skills, how to manage stress better, how to manage emotions.
How long does that last?
So we usually say here in Nigeria, we do rehabilitation minimum a month to 3 months. Some people as far as 6 months. But that will also not teach you how to live healthier, how to make better decisions. And then when you go out there, you are able to say no. You are now an advocate. But we do know that people also still relapse. Now,
talking of relapse, some people have been addicted to drugs, like you said earlier on, because maybe they're taking the drug to deal with a particular pain, but they now get so addicted. And even some of these pharmacists are enablers, right? Then you also have those that were not addicted to drugs, but because of some trauma that must have happened in their lives, either the death of a loved one or something so drastic. Do you understand? So are those ones easier to, what's the word now? To turn around than the ones who have been taking it for years?
Yes. So those ones are like, it's a short-term thing. So somebody who, for example, is dealing with a chronic pain, right? And then the person is given some medications like prescription opioids that are also highly addictive. We have found cases. So let me give you a case of a doctor. This is a doctor who has a severe menstrual pain, like she's on admission and all that. And so from time to time, we give her this injection, and she knows that this injection is good. And so with time, she started telling us, faking menstrual. So every 3 weeks, she's like, I'm on my period. So one day we gave her a placebo.
What's a placebo?
Placebo just means like normal syringe water. That's more something that looks as if it's injection, but it's not injection. And she said, "Oh, the pain has gone. I'm feeling better." I say, you are getting used to
but
this.
How come she felt better? Is this also psychological?
It's not psychological. So because she felt that we actually gave her the injection. So doctors also get addicted.
So psychology also has a part to play with.
Yes, it has a part to play.
She genuinely felt better.
She felt better, and we know that of course it is false. So we already knew that there's a problem. She's already getting, addicted. So we had to start taking steps back. Like you don't have to get into this. So people that have had traumas, we all have had traumas. We have adverse childhood experiences. A lot of us have gone through a lot of traumas. Sudden death, grief. It doesn't mean that you'll be addicted to any substance. It may be that at that point they are giving you what we call benzodiazepines because you are not able to sleep, but they are highly addictive. The truth is that you must take them for a short period of time and follow the prescription. But the moment you break that and go and buy by yourself and start increasing the dosage, there's a problem.
Speaking of which, I beg, because all these ones, we're talking about the white drugs, all the ones you find under the record. What about codeine? What about migbo? What about cocaine?
Those are our local drugs.
Remember you were saying that a lot of people are under the perception that only the rich
are addicted to drugs.
And that's not the case.
No, that's not.
Why is that?
Because marijuana is cheap. A wrap is about 100 naira, and if you don't have money, somebody can buy for you.
What about crack cocaine?
Crack cocaine is also cheap, but cocaine is expensive. So that's different. If you say somebody is addicted to cocaine, yes, you are looking at a person as somebody from the affluent family, because it's not easy to get, and it's not affordability is also a question. But when you talk about Colorado Colos, you talk about cough syrup with codeine.
Which one is Cloud, I beg?
That's it in a Cloud, Scooby, Mamba. There's so many names.
So what do these things do?
Some of them don't even have names. They're just combination of different substances, and they affect the reward center. So which is for motivation, pleasure, and reinforcement.
So that one where they act like zombies and
so they are chasing the high. They are chasing the high. So there's that intense release of dopamine that reinforces your use.
When you say chasing the high, what do you mean?
It gives them that pleasure, that making them feel good, euphoria, relaxed. So you see the person has taken codeine with cough syrup with codeine, feeling very calm, smiling.
No, but they usually look glazed and they sort of bend over.
Some of them, that's
in a trance or something.
And they have selective amnesia. They may not even remember that part that has happened.
But at what point did they not remember? At what point did they come down to earth?
When they get out of that phase, and it can take minutes or hours. Some people I've seen somebody who took colos and stood for 4 hours.
What means stood? Ramrod straight?
Yes, and they were beating, hitting. He stood. If they had told that boy to stand for 4 hours, he will not stand. And when he eventually had better muscle relaxation and everything, because I came in when they said they needed the doctor to come and now inject him because benzodiazepine also.
So he was just standing
stationary. He was just standing. They were beating, throwing water on him. It was not budging. Wow. And then when he recovered, or rather when he got out of that subconscious state, he didn't remember what even happened at all. Even when so they videoed it, and that is the evidence you can show somebody like that, like you were this bad, and that can also help in promoting recovery. So you don't have to go. And people, you say they will always tell you, my uncle has been taking it for the past 30 years. My father has been taking this for the past 50 years. Why me?
But what about the one that they are bent over? It's almost as if they're like made of rubber. You see them bent over and staring into space.
So some of these substances don't have names anymore. is combination. That's why we call some of them laced. So marijuana we know is cannabis, and of course we know the active ingredient there is 9-tetrahydrocannabinol. But once it's laced, you do not know the component anymore. It can be laced with colos, it can be laced with any of the opioid, it can be laced with another. So, and it's a combination, and they take it just one puff of colos.
Okay. What does codeine do? Because wasn't there a law that was made that was banned?
Yes.
What does it do exactly?
Codeine is an opioid analgesic. So you take it, help to reduce pain.
Mixture, right?
Yeah, so cough mixture, when you are told to go and buy, you see some doctor will tell you cough mixture without codeine.
Okay, yes.
Yes, and then the one with codeine, it must.
But that's one that makes you sleep, isn't it?
Yeah, yes. Sleepiness, relaxation, and all that. But you should take it at the prescribed time and the period.
So, but
don't
what
take
did they
it more
take?
than.
Did they take like a bottle full of
No,
it?
some people take more than
one bottle at one dose.
So there was a naming ceremony. Let me tell you. So there's so many stories.
Anyway,
There
we're
was
going
a
on break
naming
soon. There's so many stories. We'll try and grab the ones that we can grab. Bottom line is to send the right message
So there
across.
was a naming ceremony that money was stolen. And so they started searching.
Don't hold it there. We can go break. We will come back. We will finish this. So we'll be right back. See you in 5 minutes or so. Welcome back to Perspectives. Where's Ugo? I have a question for Ugo. Ugo, I know I keep asking you about families and personal experiences. But like I said, it's good to also focus on those that are suffering alongside the victims that are also going through this journey. So another thing I want to ask you, that have families of drug addicts ever tried interventions with you as a professional? And if so, how did the addicts feel each time they were made to partake in these interventions? Were most of them always in denial, or did some of them just accept the situation and were willing to try to move on to recovery?
Thank you so much for the question. I like the fact that are they in denial or are they compliant?
Yes,
the question. The answer is they start off with denial. The problem is we forget that nobody wants to be confronted and say, look at how nasty you look. Because they're also dealing with their self-worth at this point. They're feeling low about themselves. So showing them a mirror and saying this is how bad situations look would always bring out resistance, because that's part of the defense mechanisms that they've built, right? So I always say to families, it is a process. And I love where the doctor said, not one person has the same journey. And when a family approaches me for interventions, I always start off with, do not think that this is going to be an easy journey, but sit tight, hold on, and we're going to get through it. I need you to have faith and trust that this process would work. Because a lot of the times people have the idea that as soon as you approach help or a therapist or a professional to intervene, and it's a quick fix. It's not a quick fix. These things will take time, but how determined, how invested are you in making sure that this process would work? So I always try to let the family knows that this is a process. Our young people, whoever is addicted to this drug, they will start off with resistance. That is okay. That is acceptable because those are the defense mechanisms that they've built. And you can't have a defense mechanism just break suddenly, because they will not be able to cope. So we've got to do things gradually. Eventually, these people come around because they start to see, okay, I do need help. I'm struggling here. It will take time. Some of them might be weeks, some might be months before they actually decide to engage.
Okay.
I always advise the families.
Another question I would like to ask, as you said, because we're pressed for time, so I want to get as much as I can out of you before we let you go, is that when you do this intervention with families, that's the families of the drug addict and their loved ones, in between, do you also now have separate interventions to recap on what you've already discussed and how best to handle it? Is that the stage you go through, or the only time you put them together is when you see them? So do you put them together, separate them, talk to them individually, put them together again, and like that, so that each person is growing in their own path and better prepared for the next intervention?
Yeah.
Okay, you do. Okay.
Absolutely. I always.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, absolutely. I always do that because I realize that as much as we're having an intervention because there is an addict involved, the families also have to have some interventions. So I always have different times. Sometimes I will break the sessions. I would have sessions with individual families. And I'm talking about having a session with the mother separately, having a session with the father, and also having sessions with the siblings, because everybody's experiencing this differently. The way the mother is experiencing the child who is an addict is an emotional experience, right? The mother is feeling more emotional about it. She's feeling a bit more lost. Whereas the father might be feeling angry about it because he's thinking, oh, you should man up if it's a boy, or how has this child disappointed me? So I've always got to play the dynamics differently because everyone is experiencing things differently. And making sure that the foundation where the family becomes a unit again, coming back as a glue is quite important. So I'm always making sure that I'm working with them differently.
Oh, I love that answer. I love that answer. Anyway, Maymunah, we're back to you. You know, we're talking about the extremes that these drug addicts go through, people on drugs go through. And you said something about sending a laptop for 100 naira.
Let me see, I'm going to box 3 stories into one really fast. During COVID, I had a lot of webinars, like practically like 4, 5, 6, 7 webinars per day. And I told a group of parents that, look, any present that comes to your home, receive it before you let your child know, because a lot is happening out there. And one lady received throw pillows for a 16-year-old daughter who just turned 16. So another friend sent it to the house. And she said, oh, Dr. May, during one of our webinars said, any present that comes, receive it. So she took the throw pillow and she opened it. Do you know what was happening? Do you know what fell out from that throw pillow? Wraps of marijuana.
Who sent the throw pillow to the house?
A friend.
Sent it to who?
Through to this girl on her birthday. Through
how old was this girl?
16. She just turned 16.
Wow.
And so the mother said, this is exactly what this woman has been talking to us about. So receiving that, we've seen people who bought phones directly to another house and changed the content of the phone and loaded it with cookies that had marijuana and sent it.
But I even know that I hear you can order those.
Yes, you can order. So there are people that are doing it now as business. So you have to be very careful what you eat. And so you find out that you, the parents, please, parents, I'm talking about us, parents. And parents, you must not necessarily have your own children. You are parenting somebody somewhere. You have to be very vigilant. You have to go back to intentional parenting. Who is your child speaking with? Where is your child going to? How much is your child interacting with the people in the family? If you usually have breakfast or dinner together, why is your child in the room these days? Find out what your child is doing. If you think your child is doing something, your child is doing something. Your instinct most times never fails you. Send your child out. Search the room. If your child is now using perfume more than before, why? If your child is always licking sweet and tom-tom or any of this sweet that has flavor or whatever, menthol, why? Make sure you do pay attention. The word here is change, because a lot of the kids are doing, like crystal meth, is colorless, is odorless. So because marijuana has the odor.
Is it liquid?
No. It's different. It comes in different whatever.
Okay.
It's a methyl phenidate. It's a tablet. So they take it. It's colorless. It's odorless. And because of that, you may never know what this child is taking. You find that things start missing in your house. Why? I've seen a child who gave a 400 naira, like 1,000 laptop to somebody for a wrap of marijuana.
Wow.
Which was just 100 naira. Because he just wanted it at that point. He was craving for it. So we have to do much more. And please, I plead to all parents out there, listen, not judgmentally.
Instincts. Thank you so much.
Not judgmentally to your children. Stop listening to respond. Listen to understand their point of pain, so that you can use your wisdom and experience to nurture them.
Thank you so much. I wish I say this all the time. I wish I had more time to discuss this. But thank you so much, Maymunah, for your deep insight. And thank you so much, Ugo, for joining us from London. Thank you so much for being with us on Perspectives. I was really happy that you guys came. Anyway, drugs take you to hell disguised as heaven, as you can see. Sometimes you can only find heaven by slowly backing away from hell. Overcoming the power of addiction is no easy achievement. Every day can be a struggle against inner turmoil and outside pressures exerting influence on you. Our greatest glory is in never failing, but in rising up every time we fail. The daily battle for sobriety is an all too familiar struggle for many recovering addicts. Even those years into their sobriety, the threat of relapse remains lurking in their daily lives. If you ever feel this way, know that plenty of people are dealing with the same struggle and that each day of sobriety is yet another victory. And always remember, life is a learning curve. That's all we have time for today. You've been watching Perspectives here on Arise News with me, Ruth Osime. Many thanks and have a great week.